What's up, guys? We're back with another Gundam Universe figure, another Wave 5 figure, and we're taking a look at the other Gundam in this wave, because it's only 2 Gundams in this wave out of 3 figures. We've got the RX-93 new Gundam, of course, from CHAR'S COUNTERATTACK. So we've got him here in the standard style Gundam Universe packaging. We've got a pretty interesting front panel because his bubble is an odd shape because of the artwork and the fin funnels on the Gundam, so it makes things sort of constrained. But you've got a good shot of the Gundam there. We've got product shots and the name and model information down the spines. This guy is number 14 in the line. And then the back of the box has got product shots. You've got details of how he moves, showcases some accessories, and then of course we've got cross-sell for the other 2 figures in the wave. So let's do it. Let's pull it out and take a look. And here we go, out of the package, our RX-93 new Gundam, of course, the Gundam from CHAR'S COUNTERATTACK, another Amuro Ray suit. This one is one that I know a lot of folks are certainly interested in, just because, I mean, it's a big suit from an important movie in the Universal Century. So this is one I was looking forward to myself. And I think for the most part, we've got a pretty solid figure here. It's very much in line kind of with the Sandrock from the same wave, where it has a lot of stuff. It doesn't necessarily have everything, because I don't know if that's even possible in this particular line to even go that far, but it moves really well, and it does feel a little bit more on the complete side. It's definitely a bit of a pick-me-up after some of the hang-ups that the Zaku 2, the CHAR'S Zaku 2 has. So let's see what this guy can do, see how he moves around. We've got our head that can look up a decent bit, down, surprisingly good despite how sort of locked in it is. You do have a little bit of tilt. The neck does move as well, and then of course you can rotate. We've got arms that go out at the shoulders. They rotate. Bicep swivel. Double jointed elbows, so really good range as usual. And then we've got the ball pegs at the wrist, so up and down, in and out, and then rotation. Torso is going to be a little limited, so you can bobble backwards and forward a little bit. Not much tilt really, but there is a decent bit of swivel there, surprisingly. I will kind of mention that the backpack might pop off if you're pushing on it too hard, so just be careful. Words of the wise. So you've got, honestly, a good amount of range there. I know it's not tons, but it's a little bit better than average for this particular line, so I do like that. Legs go out about that far, not full splits, but pretty good for this line. They go forward about this far. You can kick backwards slightly. There is some twist up at the joint. You've got double jointed knees, but they're essentially a single at this point. It's just a big honking leg there. So that's as far as it goes. There is some pretty good range down at the ankles, though. You've got in and out, so up and down. There is rotation in there, and then you can sort of shimmy it side to side to allow for rocker in various places. So, like, that's pretty good for this particular line, especially with how large these feet are. So he is pretty well articulated. Like, I'm really not having too many problems posing him around or anything. If you're familiar with the line, you know what some of the hang-ups are mostly. Mostly they're at the torso. But this guy in particular does seem to move a little bit better. He doesn't really have a crunch, and that's very normal. But the twist is a lot more robust than average, and it does help to get him into some slightly more dynamic poses. Now, as far as the aesthetics, I'm pretty happy with this one. It is, as usual, a very stark white, factory fresh Gundam. So if you're into panel lining, or if you're into shading, this may or may not be for you. Of course, you can add that because it does have the lines in the sculpt, but it doesn't come like that out of the box. So it's very model kit-y in terms of its appearance, because it's basically just molded plastic everywhere. I've mentioned this in a number of reviews. I kind of harped on it in the CHAR'S Zaku review because it's just so pink everywhere. It's a lot of the same color over and over and over again, but this is more of the same. There's just a lot of molded plastic attached to each other, which isn't a negative. It's just kind of what this line is. So again, very much like a model kit kind of feel. It's a bunch of parts put together rather than a bunch of paint being slapped on. There is some paint here and there, you know, like for the green here, and then the line work on the face, and then of course the green for the eyes. But overall, it's mostly just plastic. And then of course you've got our symbol there on the left shoulder, your right. But I do like this design. I think it translates to figure form really well. I do love the asymmetrical design of the arms and then of the backpack. The backpack's removable. I mean, I've already talked about it because I popped it off. but it's an accessory technically, I suppose, if you want to talk about it that way. More blacks and yellows and whites. It's got a spot for the beam saber hilt, which we do get, and we'll talk about that as well. But I really like this one. I think it stands out nicely because of the color scheme. It's going to kind of mesh well with the Sandrock in the same wave, despite the fact that they have nothing to do with each other. Visually, their colors are very, very similar, and I do like that. That's probably one of the reasons why I'm kind of drawn to this one as well, not just because I like CHAR'S Counterattack. But this is a really solid figure. I think proportions are nicely done. It's got a slightly smaller torso with those big chunky legs, which definitely works for me for whatever reason. The head sculpt is nicely done, nicely sized, proportioned, colors are good, eyes really pop, and then the quad V-fin up top is a big drawing point. It kind of sucks you in there a little bit, and it's a nice focal point for the rest of the head sculpt. So I'm really happy with this guy. Again, outside of the fact that it's not panel lined or anything like that, which I don't personally care about, I think this is a really spot-on looking figure. Now, when it comes to accessories, this is where this figure gets a little interesting because, like I said, he is pretty well stacked with stuff, at least as far as this line goes, but he's not necessarily complete. There's definitely stuff that he doesn't have. Like, there's no guns here, we don't get the shield, but I think we get a beam saber, which I'm really happy about. I usually get kind of whiny when it comes to not getting beam sabers because it's my preference. But of course, we also get the fin funnel system as well, the big backpack contraption that sits on his back. So to start with, let's talk about everything else. We do get an extra hand, so you have two fists on him in the box. You get a single hand, a right hand. It's a trigger finger, which pretty much confirms to me something that I was thinking about in a different view, is that there is no gripping right hand. Otherwise, they would have included it because he only has a beam saber. You do get an extra beam saber hilt, which does store in the backpack here, so you can pop that in, but we get the beam saber itself. It is a big monster pink blade with the dagger permanently out on the end. So I guess there was no way, or it wasn't possible to include a replacement blade or anything, because this isn't always out, it's an optional thing, so he either uses it or he doesn't. So in this instance, when you have it out, he's going to have both versions sticking out, the sword or the saber and the dagger that's at the bottom. I do like it though, and again, I'm happy that they included the beam saber just because it's my preference. If it came down to a gun versus a sword, it's always going to be a sword when it comes to a Gundam for me. And then of course we do get the fin funnel. So this thing is kind of weird. So it's a big monster piece of plastic with a separate piece. So this guy comes off and this folds, and you can actually use it as a singular, funnel that's out and about doing whatever it does. It's got a Tamashii stand adapter hole right there, so you can put it on a stand if you want to have it suspended around the Gundam and not being used on the actual backpack. There is a little slot right here, or not a slot, it's a peg basically that pegs into a slot here on this piece, and then you do it like this, and you can connect the two so that they're one piece, and then this hole right here goes into this sort of wedge on the backpack, and then it sits on his back. It looks pretty good. Like, honestly, I think it works well enough. It's huge, too. It's really big. You can fold this one over and up if you want to have it sitting up, if you want to just change the shape a little bit. I do really like the way it looks. I think it is kind of cumbersome in some ways. It doesn't really bother the figure in terms of balance, though. It doesn't weigh a lot. Thankfully, it's not too heavy. It doesn't really make him back heavy either. Like, as you can see, I didn't have to, reposition him to make him stand up normally after taking it off or putting it back on. So thankfully, that doesn't really seem to be a concern. It is a very goofy looking Gundam apparatus, but I'm happy that they included it. I would have been complaining had it not been there, because this is definitely like the signature thing for this suit. I wish we could have gotten the shield as well, just to be a little bit more complete, but I am really happy that we got this. And the fact that you've got the ability to change this up, take one of them off, and then of course put it on a stand. So yeah, overall, this is a pretty solid entry in the line. Again, like I said, very similar in many ways to the Sandrock, where I feel like this is edging more towards a more complete figure. It's definitely missing a bunch of stuff because there is a lot that can go with the new Gundam, from guns to bazookas to the shield. But this guy has all the hallmarks. He's got the beam saber and he's got the fin funnels, and I'm really happy with the way they work. They don't imbalance him. He stands up just fine, and they look pretty good. They are a goofy thing. I mean, mean, let's be honest, they're kind of a goofy looking thing when it comes to Gundam stuff, but I'm happy that they're included. This figure moves really well, and I think he looks fantastic. I'm really happy with this one overall, and I think that he's going to look really good alongside the RX-78, or I don't know, pretty much anything else in the line. And I'm looking forward to yet another wave of Gundam Universe after taking a crack at this one. So that's going to do it for this look at the Bandai Tamashii Nation's Gundam Universe New Gundam. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And until next time.